He tried to scam me for $10,000. I walked out with $5,000 instead. Okay, so just a little bit of information before I get into the story. Also, sorry, this might get a little long, but I hope it is worth it. I, a 22-year-old male, work in construction and run a few crews. I am a foreman because I have been working in this field since I started working summers when I was 14. That is legal in my state. With this being said, I have a lot of experience and get paid really well. For my job, I need a truck that can pull a lot of trailers and also get into a lot of sketchy job sites, especially in the winter. So I drive a new lifted pickup, F350. Anyway, let us get into it. So about 4 months ago, I got off work one day and really did not feel like making dinner, so I decided to go get myself the trusty Big Mac at McDonald's. Well, after I got my order, I was going to pull out into the parking lot to drive home, and I was looking hard to my left to see how busy the road was before I got over there. Well, I was not paying great attention to what was happening in front of me, and as I was creeping forward, someone who was in front of me was stopped and not paying attention either. I ended up barely hitting his mirror and scraping his door with my front end. I immediately reversed and hopped out. I made sure the guy was okay and apologized, knowing it was my fault, and I asked him if he wanted to call the police. Let us call him Brent. Brent says, "No, brother, we are all good. If you just get me your insurance information, I think we can get this taken care of." I was fine with that, as there was no damage done to my truck, and it is not required to call the police for an accident if it occurs in a private parking lot. This is relevant later. We exchange information, and he seems pretty cool, so I tell him to go get the damage bid, and I will just pay in cash so my insurance rates do not go up, as long as he is okay with it. He says that is fine, and we both just leave. I feel like a moron, but all in all, Brent seems like a cool guy, and I just hope we can get it sorted out smoothly. About a month passes by, and I have not heard anything from Brent or the shop I told him to go to. Honestly, I was not too stressed about this, because if he decided not to get it done, that is on him. Well, he calls me up one day at about noon, saying he cannot remember my name, and he wanted to tell the guys at the shop who sent him there because it seemed like we knew each other. I told him my name, and the guys at the shop gave him a deal. Pretty sure they say this to everyone, laugh out loud. He sends me the bid for damages, and it comes out to $2,403. This was more than I imagined, but I said to get it done, and I would take care of the bill afterward, and that was that. He hung up, said it was cool, and I went on with my day as usual. Another month goes by, and I do not hear anything until Brent calls me up while I'm at work again and says, "Hey brother, I talked to the shop, and they said they cannot get me in for another 2 weeks or so, and they may end up charging me more if they find more damage." I say, "Okay, sounds good. Just let me know, man. I hope it goes smoothly for you, and I'm sorry for the inconvenience." He seems to take it well, and I am really trying to just be a good person. He responds with, "Well, after talking to my wife, I'm okay if you just wanted to write a check for $2,500 and we can call it even." This seemed odd to me, because why the hell would someone not want their vehicle repairs all paid for? I say, "Okay, man, let us set a time and place to meet, and I'll get you paid." He liked the idea and ended the call by telling me he would let me know. Yet another month passes by, and I hear nothing again. At this point, I am getting fed up and just want this situation to stop hanging over my head. He contacts me at 11 o'clock at night one night and asks if we can meet in town. I found this kind of disrespectful because I was nearly asleep and had to be at work at 5 in the morning the next day. Either way, I said that was fine, took my $2,500 in cash, and wrote up a quick contract saying this payment would be accepted as payment in full for the damages, and by accepting it, it would release me from any and all liability. This was a pretty fair contract, I believe, as it was the deal we had already made over the phone, just in writing. I get to the place we suggested as a meet-up spot. I give him the cash, and he signs the contract without hardly even reading it, and he did not want the copy. This was a red flag to me, but I just assumed he really did not care about it all that much, so I just sent him the photo of the contract and went back home for some sleep. As you can guess by now, another month goes by with me just living life carefree and not a worry in the world about this stupid car accident. Well, I go to check my mail, and I have a notice from this guy's lawyer that he is suing me for not paying after wrecking his car. This angered me, but I also knew I had plenty of text messages and a contract on my side. I immediately call Brent, and he blocks my number. Luckily, my girlfriend works for a lawyer, so I get him updated, and he says he would love to help. He lets me know I saved myself by writing that contract, as any contract worth over $500 is to be held up in any level court in my state. I immediately get to work on my revenge. I remember on the side of this guy's car he had a business logo, and I took pictures of the damage, so I hop online and get to the Better Business Bureau to look up who owns this company, thinking that surely he could not own the business because he is such an idiot. I was wrong. This guy owns the company, and I can see that he has about 12 one-star reviews, all in dispute because of his shady business practices, telling people that will cost one thing and then charging them 4 times what he said it would. Sound familiar? Remember when he said the shop may charge more than the original $2,403? That is right. He was suing me for $10,000, 4 times what the shop told him it would cost. Unbelievable! He was trying his same sneaky tactics on me. My lawyer takes note of this, and we show up to court ready for war. This guy is sleazy. As we get there and all set up, he says, "Are you ready to give me more of Daddy's money?" with a smirk. I guess just because I'm young, drive a nice truck, and could afford $2,500. Laugh out loud. His lawyer gets up and starts trying to say nonsense, from me hitting and running and Brent barely getting a picture of my license plate, to me trying to bully him into taking a deal for only $2,500 when the damage was clearly more than that. There were obvious holes in his story, and he really did not have much to say. Just imagine the smile on my face as my lawyer lays out the printouts of our text messages and the physical copy of the contract, which was signed by Brent. His lawyer was ghostly white and looked sick. After laying out all of the evidence, my lawyer pulled out a little hidden gem, the printouts of all the complaints we found on the Better Business Bureau and how he was doing the same thing to me. That was the final nail in the coffin, as the judge said he had seen enough. He asked Brent for any final statements, and Brent said, "I don't even have the $2,500 anymore. Can I just get that then and we'll be okay?" Literally admitting to the judge that he had received my money and his story was just a load of nonsense. I thought his lawyer was going to strangle him. It was beautiful. The judge ended up ruling in my favor and demanded him to pay my legal fees as well as damages and lost wages because I had to miss work to be in court. The absolute sweetest part was that this particular day, my crew was on a very high-wage job, and I was technically the one getting paid before I paid them out as subcontractors. This means I was to be paid $475 per hour, and this whole ordeal took about 5 hours. He ended up having to pay me almost $5,000. I don't think I've ever been so happy in my life. Sorry it was so long, I just really felt the need to share. Thank you to anyone who made it this far. Cool stories from comments. Comment. My friend and I were at the bar one night, and he tapped a car coming out of his spot. It was a super small mark on the car, and the owner agreed not to call the police. They initially wanted a fight, but got over that pretty quickly. My friend said to just give him the bill, and he would take care of it. A couple of days go by, and the guy says they got lucky. It is just going to be a small paint touch-up and should only cost a couple $100. My friend meets up with him and gives him cash. A week goes by, and the guy calls and says they discovered the whole bumper is cracked, so it is going to be another $500. My friend shows up and gives the guy the money. A couple more days pass, and my friend gets a call saying the frame is bent and it's going to be a couple $1,000s. I tell him not to answer the phone anymore. This guy is obviously shaking him down. He was not even hitting the gas when he hit the car. We were doing maybe 1 mile per hour. There was no way he caused any real damage. The guy called him a few times, but eventually gave up. Comment. One day, it was fall cleanup. Work crews come to rake and take away the leaves on people's property. Just by chance, my across-the-street neighbor and I were having this done at the same time. She had parked outside her driveway to give her crew more room to work. I was backing out of my driveway to go somewhere, which would give my crew more room too. I usually end up making a right to leave my street, but the leaf truck was blocking that turn, so I would have to make a left. While backing out, I hear a crunch, which I thought was a pile of leaves and sticks. I stop and get out. I hit the front corner fender of my neighbor's car. It was a slight scrape, while my fender was a bit more damaged. I pull back in and knock on her door. We look at her damage, and she does not want to get insurance involved. I tell her to get an estimate. If it's around $500, I will pay it, but if it's $5,000, then insurance will be involved. She never got back to me. I tried looking at her car, but since she parks facing the house, I rarely get to see her fender. We have spoken since as she walks her dog, but I never asked her about the fender, and she never brought it up. I never fixed mine. A couple of years later, I had to go to her house and saw it was fixed. My guess is that since the car was only a few months old, it was under warranty and somehow it must have been included. Either that or when she was in another accident, she had a different colored car which was a loaner. It got repaired with the other damage. Anyway, it's not my problem if she didn't bring it up. I might ask about it one day. Answer. My neighbor backed into my car when I was a brand new driver with a very old and worn out car. I loved that car, seriously. It was just what I needed in a car, and so ugly I never worried about anything because nothing could possibly make it much uglier. Well, he dented my door severely. It was crumpled right in. He told me to just tell him how much it was to fix and he would pay me. He even signed a note saying as much, but he did not want to get insurance involved. My dad told me to go ahead and trust him, so I did. The shop where my little brother worked, so presumably people who would not scam me, quoted a price, and it was like $800. I paid $760 for the car. Apparently, they felt it needed a new door. Since the door still worked okay, it needed yanking to open, but it always closed properly, I decided against it and told the neighbor it was not right to spend $800 to fix the door. He asked if I had tried other shops. I did, and they wanted even more to fix it. So I thought it was over. Until one morning, I woke up to noise coming from our front driveway. The neighbor was there with some man I had never met and my dad replacing my door. I had no idea what etiquette requires when you wake up to find a stranger repairing your car, so I brought them travel mugs of coffee and some muffins. To be fair, it looked great when they were done. The man he brought over also removed several dents that had come with the car when I bought it, and that door worked perfectly for the rest of the time I owned the car. The neighbor was a good person. He could have just ignored the damage once I told him I was not going to push to have it fixed, but he did not. Comment. I got hit by a young girl. She was on her way to get her learner's permit, and she switched into my lane. I moved over the first time because I saw her coming, but then we were all in the turn lane, so we were all good, right? No, she kept on coming. Her mom is upset. I knew if I involved the police, there was a slight chance Child Protective Services might get involved, and I felt bad. I got the mom's information. It took me about 2 weeks, and I got 4 quotes to be fair to the mom. The mom disappeared on me for a few days, and I was wondering if I had to call the police. She wanted to pay the car repair shop, which was fine. I had prior damage, and I explained to the shop that I wanted to separate the charges, so she paid for the damage she caused. Eventually, I heard back from her, and she just dropped off the check at my workplace randomly, like I was causing this inconvenience. I had to pay for a rental car out of pocket for 2 weeks on top of it. I would have been so happy if I was dealing with someone like you. People are foolish. Answer. If I did not cause the accident, I always just call my insurance to sort it out. We paid a premium for the insurance service, right? This is also why I always get full coverage, even though my car is somewhat old. With full coverage, they will take care of you, go after the other party, and return the deductible to you later. Comment. I worked in a sandwich shop in a strip mall. Our neighbor's was a chiropractor. I was the delivery driver that day and parked in our designated spot, which meant I could stop there, run inside to grab the next batch of orders, and get out. Also, I would only be blocking our employees' parking spaces and not impeding movement through the parking lot. The chiropractor lady was in a hurry, I guess. She backed her Mercedes out too fast and clipped the front of my truck. I had no damage. She had light scuffs on her bumper, literally something that would buff out. She sent a picture to her husband, and he agreed. I alerted my insurance agent anyway and sent pictures of both vehicles. 2 months later, she came screaming through the door of the shop looking for me, saying she wanted $9,000 because that was the difference between her Mercedes and the Land Rover or Range Rover she was trying to upgrade to, and it was all because I scuffed her bumper. Yeah, right. I called my insurance agent, asked if I could put him on speaker, and told him what was going on. He politely put this woman in her place, told her she was welcome to file whatever lawsuit she wanted. They would defend the policy as she was at fault, and went further to say that as the claim damage was greater than what can be pursued in small claims, they would have legal defend me if she sued me personally. He ended with, as you were at fault, you would have a better chance at a good outcome by sitting on a cactus and spinning. That agent has my business forever. Comment. My brother had an issue where he was backing out of a spot at a gas station and knocked the mirror off a car. He had just realized it after he started to drive forward, so he pulled into another spot. He grabbed his information and headed into the gas station to find the owner of the vehicle. Meanwhile, the owner had exited the store, saw the damage, and came back inside while berating the clerk for security camera footage because she thought she was a victim of a hit and run. My brother took responsibility, admitted fault, and laid out her options. The mirror was knocked off, but all the electric components still held it on, and the motors that moved it still worked, so it was likely a cheaper fix. He provided his information, including his phone number, if she wanted to keep it off insurance, get an estimate, and he would pay the shop for repairs. The woman was difficult, talking about getting insurance and filing a police report and everything else. Since my brother was smart and took pictures, they showed that this lady parked in the loading zone of a handicapped spot, the lines next to it designated for the wheelchair ramp to come down out of a van. Since she brought it to insurance, my brother was found not at fault because this lady had not actually parked inside a designated parking spot. So she was responsible for her own mirror, which was far more damaged because she did not secure it from flopping around on the drive home and subsequent driving she did until she got an estimate. She then had the audacity to call my brother asking if his offer to cover the shop bills still stood. Comment. This is not quite a revenge story, but this tale reminded me of it. I also work in construction. I was parked behind the driveway of the house we were working on. On an extremely rainy day, like hard to see 20 feet in the rain, one of my framers backed out of the driveway and into my truck. We made the same arrangement. I would go get some estimates because he wanted to pay out of pocket. No problem. I got 2 estimates that were pretty high and told him. He asked if I would take it to a shop his friend owns for another estimate, and his friend would help him out. Again, no problem. I planned to go there on Thursday. Well, on Tuesday around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I was driving down the road and I got hit by a drunk driver pulling out of his apartment complex, crossing 3 lanes to collide with me. Sure enough, he hit me right where the framer did. I called the framer later that day and said, "Framer, you do not need to worry about that estimate anymore." Comment. I got a claim on my insurance one time. I was at Walmart and had backed my truck into a spot rather carelessly as I had left the wheel turned all the way to the right unintentionally. When leaving, I was in a bit of a hurry and went to pull out, and a pretty beat-up car that had clear previous damage to the side was parked next to me by then. I put it in drive and moved about 1 foot before I realized I had the wheel turned, stopped, and hopped out to look at the other car. I had very lightly pushed the plastic bumper cover in with no paint damage. Honestly, it probably could have been removed and popped back out, but I could not do it myself there in the parking lot. I thought I was doing the right thing by sticking around and waiting to give my information to the lady, and she took it but said she was not worried about it as there was already a lot of other damage, and she was getting rid of it the next week anyway. Well, a year later, an insurance agent friend of mine went to give me a new quote, and lo and behold, there was an at-fault accident claim she saw through whatever system they have from that date. I called my insurance about it, and they told me they had paid out for sideswiping her car to the tune of several $1,000s. I was very upset. Comment. One day, my then teenage brother came home and told our dad that while he was out with our van, he had bumped a woman's bumper. My dad went back with him and asked the lady to show him the damage. She did. It was a tiny scratch. My dad got down on the ground and with a pen put his initials on the inside of the bumper. He told her to... We never heard back from her. I like to say I learned from other people's experience. Quite a few years later, I shared an apartment with a roommate in which we each had a male cat, and we found there was a significant amount of carpet damage from them spraying. So, when we parted ways, to no one's surprise, we were told we were responsible for replacing the carpeting. They showed us a markup of where they had used a black light to identify the damage. I told them that I would pay my half when they showed me the newly carpeted apartment. They called me and told me that it was done. I went over on my lunch break, observed that the carpeting had indeed been replaced, and gave them the check for my half. They wanted the whole amount from me, and told me that I could collect from my now ex-roommate. I told them that we were both on the lease, I had paid my portion of the responsibility, and it was up to them to collect from her. I have no clue what happened to that part of it. My dad did not raise a fool. If you like the story, subscribe to the Sneaky Pigeon channel to get more cool and interesting stories. And if you want to support us even more, like the video, write a comment, and turn on the bell to receive notifications about the latest videos. See you in the next videos. Bye-bye.